Hello. On behalf of BIC Magazine and our sponsor, Mobideo, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar on the digital turnaround, understanding what digitalization is and how it can be applied to your turnaround. This is Robin Dupree from BIC Magazine. First, a few pointers regarding your webinar console. You can maximize or reduce the size of any of the windows. At the bottom are widgets to access resources, including a PDF of the slides. Please click the middle green icon to see that. There is a Q&A box to text in questions anytime during the presentation. We will begin the Q&A session at the end of our speaker's presentation. If you experience any technical problems, click the yellow question mark and we will answer accordingly. And now, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Mobideo. Mobideo enables industrial companies to transform service operations by digitizing, mobilizing, and deploying unique operational methodologies, processes, and know-how. The Mobideo Mobile Work Execution Platform dramatically improves workforce productivity and coordination by delivering detailed task definitions and supporting information to your field workers digitally, with real-time activity status information, highlighting risk, and supporting better decision-making. Existing processes are rapidly digitized, providing benefits for field force, management, and process analytics. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to today's presenters. Paul Muir, President and Chief Revenue Officer with Mobideo, has helped many Fortune 2000 companies improve capital project and MRO performance and compliance by leveraging enterprise software and cloud solutions focused on project controls, contract management, mobility, and business process management. He continues to work with customers to leverage the emerging industrial Internet of Things, enterprise mobility, cloud, and analytics technology to drive service operations transformation in the oil and gas, chemical, aviation, and power industries. Malachi, Alper, CEO, PAS Ashdod Refinery, has fulfilled senior positions in a variety of operations for the past 30 years, specifically VP Operations and VP Business Development, Managing Director, and CEO. For the past 9 years, he has been serving as the CEO of the Refining and Logistics Division of PAS Oil Company and CEO of PAS Ashdod Refinery. Over this period, he has led an aggressive strategic investment plan which positions PAS Refinery as one of the most advanced and profitable refineries in the Mediterranean and Northwest Europe. And now, I'd like to hand the mic over to Paul. Paul?
Thank you for BIC for hosting this platform we're using today. I'd like to kick things off by introducing a poll. We're going to have 2 or 3 poll questions throughout the next half an hour, and to get us used to doing that, I'd like to ask the first one. I'd like to ask the audience if today in your turnarounds you're using any mobile devices at all. Answer, are you already using mobile devices in the execution turnarounds today? I'll give you all a few seconds. Thanks everybody for your answers. Okay, so our agenda for today is broken down into 4 sections. The first thing I'm going to do is try and offer a definition of what digitalization is, hopefully demystify that for everybody, and shed some light on the general potential for it to dramatically change your turnaround performance for the better. We're then going to jump into the turnaround world in more detail and discuss a real-life example of how mobile technology combined with analytics in the cloud are dramatically improving the manageability of evolving scope and changing priorities once your turnaround starts and the baseline plan is fast becoming irrelevant. Malachi Alper, CEO from the PAS Ashdod Refinery, will give us some insight into what he perceives are the game-changing aspects of the solution deployed there. Then for the visual learners in the audience, we're going to have a quick overview of the Mobideo solution, looking initially at the management interface and how it aids in keeping the situation understood in real time. And for those of you interested in the mobile experience, we'll let you see that interface and the kind of information that can be delivered and captured on mobile devices. Before opening up the floor to the Q&A session, we're going to have a discussion and look at some examples of valuable data that can be captured to help us uncover trends and process improvement opportunities in turnarounds. I hope you can stay around for the Q&A session, where Malachi and I will be happy to field more detailed questions. See in your console that there is a Q&A button, and you can submit questions at any time. We'll look at as many of those as possible. So the next thing I have is a poll question, and it's are you hearing today phrases such as digitalization in your workplace? Digitalization, digitization, digital transformation, any of these things, are you hearing them in the workplace? Are your bosses coming back from conferences? Are you seeing them in the industrial press? How visible is that? Okay, great. So almost 70% of the audience is hearing those types of phrases today, so that's great. That, I would imagine, a year ago would have been more like 20%. So we're definitely seeing a trend for digitalization to becoming an issue in the industrial space and in turnarounds in particular. So let me jump in and give an idea of what I think digitalization is. We're going to talk about digitizing industrial services and specifically how they can be applied to turnarounds. Digitizing and digitalizing are relatively new concepts, and they're even newer as real deployable solutions. I think it's important for us to have a common understanding of what I'm about to talk about and demystify some of the issues around that. Also, it's very important that we talk about real solutions, and we're so lucky today to have Malachi on board to make sure that we understand that what we're talking about is real and can be delivered now. So let's take a stab at defining digitalization, what it is. Some of you will be hearing the word more and more often. I've been in this business as an IT guy for 28 years now. Before that, I was an engineer. Never in the 28 years of my career in engineering-centric IT have I seen as many new technologies all emerge in a relatively small period of time. So the catalyst for digitalization is simply that relative recent availability of a basket of new technologies, with the cloud as the platform, the cloud as the enabler, which dramatically reduces the cost and complexity of implementation of these things. For example, reducing local IT resource involvement. So those emerging technologies, let's go through a few of them. Mobility, one near and dear to our hearts. Everybody out there today is on a smartphone, is familiar with those devices, and having that power in the hands of people in your field organization ensures that the digital initiatives that we have can extend all the way to the job site, all the way to the work face. And data can move in real time back and forth from your technicians in the field and your field organization to and from your deskless workers. So mobility is a big enabler. We're seeing other things like big data and analytics. It's never been easier to capture massive amount of information, whether that be task information or live streaming data coming off of sensors on machinery. We can capture massive amounts of data, and the analytics technology is catching up and allow us to process that data quickly and present it to humans in a way that it's never been easier to glean insights from that data. The Internet of Things, of course, is connecting machines to the Internet, machines and sensor data, improving control and data capture for those insights. And we're now moving into a world where artificial intelligence is making use of that data to optimize processes, help us make decisions, and in many cases, autonomous decisions around machine control. Things as well like augmented and virtual reality are now beginning to immerse our technicians in the field in an information-rich environment, melded with the physical world, and making the information they need to be effective and safe easily accessible in a contextualized work environment. So back to the cloud. The cloud is not just another new name for the internet. The cloud gives us a ubiquitous access to unlimited data processing and storage capacity. Probably more importantly, it's now also delivering never been easier levels of connectivity to integrate between new applications such as Mobideo and the legacy platforms you already have on site. Security is becoming much better understood by our customers and by the industry, and we're seeing standards emerge to give users comfort that their information in the cloud is safe. And that cloud platform is then stimulating developers such as Mobideo to build a whole range of applications that are quick to deploy, easy to integrate, and a lower cost of ownership than ever. So when you take all that together and you stand back and realize that we've got all this power, we can glue it all together using the internet/cloud, and it's more cost effectively capable than ever, it's time to stand back and review your core business processes, considering the potential they have to be optimized, accelerated, and redesigned, reimagined. So for me, digitalization is simply, let's understand the technology we have out there, let's understand the cloud makes it accessible, so now's the time to stand back and look holistically at our business. How can we support it better? How can we change it? And how can we get visibility in and learn from everything that's going on? So it's new technology with the cloud as a catalyst, and that's simply digitization. There is slight terminology things that if you're interested, digitization really is looking at the kind of very basic things. If you use PDFs in the field, if you're scanning drawings, you're digitizing that content. Digitalization is much more looking at process. When we're not just taking electronic content, but we're looking at workflows and how we communicate and move information around, it's digitalization. And digital transformation, another phrase you'll hear, I think talks more to innovation. If you're an owner, operator, how do you contract with your suppliers? How do you look for new ways to compensate them? If you're a contractor, what new services could you provide to the owner based on the new availability of technology and the new insights into information that you have? So when I think of digital transformation, I'm thinking innovation. When I talk about digitalization, I'm really talking about processes, end-to-end processes. And simply digitization is about electronic content. So for many organizations, I've already covered that point. So we're going to have another audience poll before we introduce Malachi. This question, currently in your turnaround environment, how long does it take you to get a situational update? Do you know what's going on instantly? Are you a shift behind understanding the picture? Are you a day behind? Are you as much as a week behind? Or it might as well be never? I'll give you a few seconds to answer that question. So the audience response, 5% instant. They must be Mobideo users. Just under 50%, 47% are a shift behind, 42% a day behind, 5% a week behind, and thankfully none of you are never getting a situational update. So between a shift and a day seems to be the current status quo. Thank you for that. So now I'd like to welcome Malachi Alper, who's going to help us understand why he feels that the Mobideo digital turnaround platform helped him. Hi, Malachi.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Perhaps you could start by giving the audience a brief introduction to yourself and in particular the Ashdod Refinery.
Well, mentioned before, I've over 30 years of experience in the chemical industry and related industries. I received my engineering degree in chemical engineering from the Technion Institute of Technology and graduated from the Advanced Management Program at Harvard. And during the last 35 years, I've been managing many companies all around the world, including Western Europe and the States. And for the last decade, I'm managing the Ashdod Refinery, which is a medium-sized refinery, one of two in Israel, and providing approximately 40% of the energy consumption of the state of Israel. And I would say that this is probably my, within this 10 years, maybe 15 turnarounds or so.
Excellent, thank you. So from your perspective as the CEO of the refinery, what would you say are the main challenges you see in managing turnarounds?
Well, turnaround is a major event. You're actually squeezing like 700,000 man-hour into 40 days. You have like over 20,000 activities on your Gantt chart, and I would say that planning is easy. Well, obviously, it's not easy, but you have enough time to plan your turnaround. You can start a year ahead of time, or 2 years, or even just as your previous turnaround ends. So you can achieve pretty good planning. But then, when the turnaround starts, you're in fog. And the challenge is to manage these thousands of activities and understand the picture instantly on time. I think this is the major challenge, because any deviation from the plan is just failure and loss of a lot of money. So the idea in a turnaround is to fix what's need to be fixed, and not to fix what doesn't need to be fixed, and to be able to control the developing work, the unforeseen work, which develops along the turnaround, and be able to allocate the resources from place to place in order to achieve the time frame that you plan, the time frame and cost. And this is the difficult task, to control the mission online.
Thank you. So really, the changing picture and getting visibility into that is far more important than, you know, when we start the turnaround, than having a great plan. Based on your experience with Mobideo, you know, where would you see Mobideo helps you with that challenge?
I think that the major advantage of Mobideo is that you are not spending time on understanding the picture. You get it instantly. Usually in turnaround, everyone does it maybe in a different way, but at the end of the day, you have your daily meetings, and you are coming to the daily meeting, and usually a lot of time is spent on updates. And receiving all these updates is a devious, long process, and in my opinion, a waste of time. When you use Mobideo, when you come to the meetings, you already know the picture. You perceive the entire situation. You know each and every activity and its status. And when you come to the meeting, you are able to address the problems and create this efficiency by not wasting time on updates. You are already updated. You are updated all the time. Whenever you open your BI reports or you dive into the activity, the equipment, or the plant, you see exactly the problem. And when you come to the meeting, you already know how to allocate the resources and provide the solution for the problem that arises during this last maybe 24 hours or just in the last hour.
That's great. So little time spent on understanding, more time thinking about solutions, and believing, what you're seeing in terms of the overall picture. Would that be a fair summary?
Sorry, can you please repeat?
I'm just summarizing, Malachi. So far less time spent on understanding, much more time spending thinking about the change in priorities and automatic schedule updates. I think that was the point you made.
Well, I think that one of the major points is that when you usually plan your activity, plan your schedules, you do it on, you are using certain tools. It can be Mobideo or a Microsoft project or anything similar. But at the end of the day, you're using your Gantt chart, and Mobideo makes sure that this Gantt chart is updated automatically. You don't need to waste time and use schedulers collecting the data, but each and every user, when he updates his own missions, the Gantt chart is being updated automatically through the Mobideo system. And this automatic scheduling is a huge advantage. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I think most people are interested in bottom line results. Do you have any feel in measured in time and money, the benefits or the impact that Mobideo had on your turnaround performance?
That's literally the $1 million question. It's much more than $1 million. It's actually close to $1 million per day. So if you are able to hold to your to the time schedule that was originally planned, you are saving a lot of money. For instance, if you look, it's a known fact that approximately 55% of turnaround end on time. That's a fact. For each refinery, the cost is different. For us, any day of shutdown is approximately $800,000. And the last turnaround, which ended in June was planned for 45 days. We concluded everything after 43 days. So that's the bottom line.
That's great. Thanks, Malachi. So my final question for you, and the audience, of course, can ask additional questions later, but the final question is, there's a lot of data collected in the turnaround by the use of the mobile technology. Were you able to look back at that turnaround data and make use of it, get some value from it moving forward?
Well, obviously, there is a lot of data collected, and this data can be looked at any time, and this is actually the base for the planning of the next turnaround, and actually any maintenance or construction activity in between. For example, during this turnaround, we have taken care, meaning dismantled, checked, took apart, installed approximately 270 heat exchangers. I think that right now we have the exact time and exact assessment of how long would it take to take care of a heat exchanger through all these activities. So obviously the data collected creates better planning for the next time.
Great, thank you for that. And would that help you with bidding out work in the future and setting contracts with contractors on your next turnaround, negotiating those contracts?
Well, obviously, this is a major part of negotiating with the subcontractors. Is a major issue, and part of this negotiation is the time assessment and the tariff for each and every activity. And when you have this tariff based on your experience and you can show it, it definitely helps when you are negotiating the costs.
Great. Thanks, Malachi. So with that, I'd like to move on now and give everybody a whistle-stop tour of the Mobideo platform. Mobideo really does, what we deliver breaks down into three areas. The first very visible component of what we deliver is around the mobile device in the field. We push out to those devices tasks to people, very detailed forms or report templates to people, all the supporting information they need to do their job, which could be a video, it could be drawings, detailed task instructions. So that information is getting out to the people on the job site, and they're also able to collect data. So if they're out calibrating equipment, commissioning things, they can be entering in data into those forms. So we'll look later at an example form, but the first part of the solution is pushing and pulling detailed procedural form type information to people in the field with the supporting information to get their task done. So those people are no longer spending any time looking for information, and you'll see range time increases, you'll see quality improvements, and you'll see safety benefits. The second component is, I think, where much of the value lies that Malachi has just been speaking around, and that's the management portal. We have a number of different dashboards. I'll show you some of them soon. But effectively, in the real-time dynamic world of the turnaround, you're able to see ongoing status for all the work activities, what's on time, what's late, what's at risk of being late, and you can drill down into the reasons for that. You know, what's the delays, what's the scope growth, what are the discoveries out there, and your management team can sit not even once a day, but in real time and make reallocation decisions, optimization decisions, put people where the work is, you know, expedite equipment, tools, scaffolding, and the like. So the management interface is where we drive the real-time improvement and effectivity, and I think where a lot of the value is. And the third piece is just the last thing we talked to Malachi around, which is we collect a lot of data. Every time somebody picks up an iPad, touches it, touches on a line within a checklist, enters a value, starts an activity, stops an activity, passes an activity to the next team in the process, all of that is tracked. So at the end of a turnaround or the end of any kind of project, we can sit down and look at that data. We can look at trends. We can look at performance of individuals. We can look at types of delays we're finding on types of equipment or specific items of equipment. So there's a lot of analytic data information which will allow you to better plan your next turnaround and better know the work packages that you would be bidding out to contractors in the future. So those are the three main components of the platform. The mobile component with form data and collecting data in the field, connected ideally over cellular data or Wi-Fi to give the real-time update to managers who can manage better and then, you know, plan better for the next turnaround through the analytics capability. So just giving you, I don't want to do a live demo here because I'm sure you've seen a lot of software demoed, but we're going to go through 2 or 3 screenshots hopefully you'll find interesting. This first one is our live progress view. So if you're a turnaround coordinator on site, each of these rows on this screen, it represents an activity on a piece of equipment. It could be equipment-centric or it could be work order-centric. You can set those things up. And lots of the little coloured boxes, each of those is a different part of the overall process. So in any turnaround environment, you're going to have a you know, handover from operations, lockout, tagout. You would have scaffolding, cleaning, visual inspections, internal inspections. You could be having heat treatment on welds, that kind of thing. So the overall work pack is broken down into those different activities. Each of those things probably done by different people, different teams, different contractors, but you get an overall view of how the work is progressing and where the risks are. So this is your real-time Bible. Typically our customers would have this on an 84-inch monitor out in the site huts and we'd be looking at this in real time to manage the dynamic, changing, developing scope. This is a particularly popular view of life. This is what I call a heat map. In this view, what the size of the squares represent is the complexity or risk of an activity. So a filter pod would be a small box. A piece of rotating equipment, for example, would be a large box. So, and the colours represent the status. So dark green is a completed activity, grey is not started, light green is work in progress. So at a glance, you can walk in, you can look at this board. I'm feeling good about the large green squares because that's complicated, risky things where there's a high risk of discoveries. They've been completed. And also on this heat map, where you can see the critical path. So the boxes outlined in pink there are your critical path items. So right at a glance, I can see there's a medium-sized complexity or risk element on the critical path that's not yet started. I might want to drill into that and find out what the status of that is. So this is a very insightful, instantaneous way of getting real-time health check on the progress of your turnaround activity. Moving to the mobile interface briefly, this particular screenshot is the inbox as seen by a craftsperson or technician. On the left-hand side of the mobile device there, you've got a number of activities that have been allocated to him. They could have been allocated to him personally. They could be allocated to a team, and he can choose those activities. But this is how the workers in the field receive their jobs. On this next slide, this is a very simple form, but on the left-hand side there, you'll see the kind of interface we have on the mobile device. It's designed to work with big fingers. And there's a ton of features I'm not going to go into here, but basically we can push any kind of data to that mobile device. We can ask questions. We can do calculations. We can do dependencies. If answer this question yes, then you have a different form, etc. And all these forms can be triggering sub-processes, triggering notifications to management, and pushing out different types of reports to other team members. What we're doing in this forms environment, though, is we're just grabbing data and we're sticking it in a database. Once that information is in the database, that database can be rendered out to any form layout you like. So if you've got legacy forms everybody's used to using, if you've got forms that are required for compliance reasons, that data that's collected in the mobile environment can be stored as a PDF looking something like the form you see or the report you see on the right-hand side there. So all we're doing is grabbing information in a database. We're doing that real time. We're triggering a whole lot of notifications and giving management the ability to react to things which might be outside of tolerance. And then at the end of the turnaround, at the press of a button, you can produce as many of these closeout reports or inspection reports as required with no additional human intervention, no typing errors, no forgetting over the weekend what you did and trying to make it up on Monday. It's real time, and elimination of that paper in the field and elimination of the burden of producing these reports as an additional activity is vastly reduced, in many cases eliminated. You know, again, different people have different perspectives on the information that's valuable to them. This is another example of a dashboard. This particular project we were doing, I think it was a couple of thousand welds on a capital tie-in. You can see the weld progress by diameter, which is the bottom left-hand chart. You can see weld progress in different areas of the plant, and you can see the amount of activity on a day-by-day basis as well. So again, a custom dashboard for this particular project. But this information is very easy to produce. So now we have another, I think this might be our final poll question. To what extent do you analyze your post-turnaround data? Extensively, somewhat, a little? Plead the fifth. Again, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, so 60% of the audience somewhat review post-turnaround data, 10% extensively, 15% a little, and 15% would rather not admit to it. So it's clear that some analysis is done, but it looks like there's a lot of room for improvement in this area. Our final slide here looking at the product is this one. This is actually real data from a turnaround. It was, I think, a 40-day duration, and you'll see that what we're tracking here was the original baseline plan, which is the lime green line. You'll see that the plan had a quite aggressive ramp up of activities, flatlined out around 600 activities a day, and had a peak of activity at the end. That peak of activity at the end was entirely documentation-based activities. What actually happened is very quickly we were able to ascertain that we were nowhere near meeting that aggressive ramp. So we did a replanning exercise to the blue line. We had a much slower ramp planned, and we actually beat that. The orange line is what actually happened. So what actually happened is we beat the replan. We completely eliminated the documentation activities, so you'll see nothing at the end of the turnaround related to documentation. So contractors that were doing that were able to be released earlier from the project. Because we had a slower ramp in, we were also able to bring contractors on site later in the project. And important in turnarounds is bad news early. So you'll see that we were able to flush out the discoveries, the scope growths real early in the project, and we had no surprises after October the 2nd there. So we were 11 days into the turnaround, and there were no further surprises. So that's real turnaround data. several thousand activities there. So we're now moving into the Q&A section.
Yes,
first question.
Thank you. Sorry, Paul. Go on.
Hi, Robin. Okay, thanks, Robin. So the first question I have here is, do I need to plan differently? How do I update my schedule? Okay, I'll take that one. I'd say all our customers use Primavera P6 as their scheduling tool. The P6 schedule needs to be changed to the extent that there needs to be a reference added to it that relates to the procedures or reports that are required per activity or per equipment type. So that when that schedule is loaded into Mobideo, Mobideo does a lookup and says, okay, for that piece of equipment, I know the date, I know the functional location, for example. What's the procedure I'm going to push to the mobile device? And to what team does that go? So we do a bit of logic on the schedule and decide who needs to get what procedure on what date to push that out to the field. So there's very little additional work from a scheduling perspective. It's important to note that even though we can track activities at a very granular level, we do not require a schedule to be built at that level. The schedule can still be start-stop. It's the procedure which we then pick up that breaks that overall activity down to any level of granularity you like. So if you're pulling tubes out of a heat exchanger and you think that's a 25% milestone, that can be built into the schedule. Nobody is planning or scheduling at that level, but you get the detailed data coming back from the activity because that granularity is pulled out of the procedure. Okay, next question. How do I get started with Mobideo? I think there's two ways of answering that question. Malachi, in a second, I'd like for you to answer that from a customer perspective. What I would say from Mobideo's perspective is we're a cloud-based platform. There's no IT involvement on your end, although we do like to have your IT blessing and look at the security aspects of that. You need to give us the procedures and reports related to the equipment that's going to be constructed, maintained, inspected, for example. There's some training we need to do for people in the field, which we typically do the weekend or 2 or 3 days before the turnaround starts. The net of it is there's about 3 or 4 weeks of a lead time to ensure we get the schedule built with the right hooks into our system. We check the import of that data into our system. We make sure the procedures are in place, and we schedule the training. So it's not a 6-month IT project. It's more like a 3 or 4 week business, asking a few business questions about what your processes are, making sure we've got the schedule data, we've got a definitive equipment list. We know who your people are in the field, whether they be employees or contractors. It's important to note that the people using the system don't all have to have an @yourcompany.com email address. You can be logging in from your company. Contractors can be logging in from a welding company, for example. We need to know who the users are, what the equipment is, and what procedures we're using, so it's pretty quick. Malachi, could you add some insight from your perspective?
Yes, I agree that using the Mobideo is pretty simple, and so this is not the issue. The issue is more of a cultural issue, and the idea is to assimilate this culture, the use of the Mobideo reporting system in the organization. And for that, I would suggest to start small. We started small. We ran a few pilots. You don't need, or you shouldn't take immediately a huge turnaround activity. You can start with a smaller activity. It can be either a small a smaller maintenance activity, like a regeneration of one of our plants, of a reformer, or you can just take an ongoing activity, which is even more recommended, like the PID activity or the safety department activity, and as a routine usage of the equipment in the system. And what will happen is that your staff, your employees, will learn to love the system. They will actually come to a state that they cannot do without it, because it's easier, the reporting is easier, and the access to data acquisition is easier. So I would suggest to start small and then to grow.
Okay, thanks for that, Malachi. I think you actually touched on one of the points from another question. We have another question about contractor superintendents not used to technology. How do we approach that? That actually comes from a pipeline company. We have a number of pipeline customers, and you're right. I think many customers are looking to evaluate this class of technology. Mobideo is one of the products there, but they're looking to understand what impact it has on process and people. I would say all of our end users are middle-aged guys. All of them would rather be home watching football than messing around with iPads. Having said that, I think we're seeing people very quickly seeing the benefits. The other aspect is, in most cases, the processes that they're seeing on the iPad is the existing company process. Mobideo typically doesn't come to the table and say, here's our processes, we think we know better than you, here's how you do a turnaround. So the processes themselves are very familiar to the people. We have last-minute training, so the people are getting trained, in some cases an hour before they need to use the product, so there's no time to really forget. We also, in 90% of cases, put on-site support on-site. So we don't, in the first 2 or 3 days of the turnaround, get bogged down in, I don't like it, I don't know how to switch it on, my battery's flat. So we have a very up-close and personal support model in the first few days. I would say generally we do not have an adoption challenge. Another question is around connectivity. The platform is full online, offline, and automatic resync. So at some point in the day, you're going to have connectivity to download activities to a mobile device. If you wander outside of Wi-Fi or lose cell phone connectivity, and the device will switch between both seamlessly, you still keep working. All your content's there, your form's there, you enter data there. If you've got no connectivity, what's not updating is the real-time dashboard that your coordinator's looking at. But as you walk back or regain connectivity, again, the system just detects that signal, reconnects, and starts updating automatically. So it's seamless online, offline mode. And all the activities on the device are there with all the supporting information that was synchronized in the morning or the shift handover time. We've got another question about, can existing information on equipment and maintenance history from client maintenance management systems be imported into this system? Yep, answer is yes. One of the things we pride ourselves on is integratability. Every one of our customers is already using SAP, Meridium, Primavera, and the screen actually, let me just go back to one of the screens I showed you earlier. So this screen here, on the right-hand side of the iPad that you see there, that is any and all reference information related to the task. So if you highlight one task on the left, what appears on the right is whatever you want, right? And that data can be coming live from back-end systems. So that could be an SAP work order number, It could be links to PDFs or data from previous inspection history. It's any and all reference information. It can appear there, or it can appear embedded in the actual procedure. So as in this screen on the left-hand side, as you scroll down through this particular procedure, taking photographs, etc., there can be embedded links to legacy information. One of the bits of feedback we get frequently is that customers find that the accuracy of legacy information is often questionable and certainly has gaps in it. So we find that customers use our technology to enrich that back-end data set by capturing the information digitally in the field. We have another question about training. You know, on the mobile device, it's fat finger. You'll see on this screen, you know, all you need to be able to do to work the software is click back or next, and then fill in the little boxes or the questions on screen. There's really no big fancy menuing system. It's all designed to be fat finger. This same interface can run on a laptop. So if you've got people in the field that have the luxury of an air-conditioned pickup truck with a comfortable seat and a coffee machine, then they can be doing this same mobile experience but running it in a web browser. So whether they're literally on a mobile device such as an iPhone or have the luxury of a laptop, it's exactly the same user interface from the technician perspective. There's other questions here. Some of them are kind of technical. Is this tool an SQL database? You know, what we have is a environment hosted with the big name hosting providers. Amazon, for example, they have 13 locations around the world, all very secure. Part of that stack is a database. We can give customers access to, not directly to the production database, but if you have already a mature analytics reporting tool set that you use, we can produce on a almost real-time basis, produce an analytics cube. And if you've got reporting environment set up already, you can hit that cube and pull the data out that you want. It is a private cloud environment, so we're not multi-tenanted. What you need to know about that is none of your data is on a shared environment with another customer. So every customer we have, we provision a new environment. Even if you were already a customer using our application for operator rounds or daily inspections, we would typically also spin up a new environment for turnarounds. If it's a big turnaround, you might want it configured slightly differently. You need the performance and the reliability, needless to say. So you're not sharing the platform with other customers. So we're coming close to the end of our session. I'd like to thank Malachi once more. Malachi, if you've got any closing comments, I would be happy to hear them. You can contact us through the contact email you see online right now, or please visit Mobideo.com. There's actually an interesting video on there of Malachi at his refinery talking about Mobideo in some more detail, and you'll see the product in use in that video. So I would encourage you to search for that video on our website. With that said, I'd like to thank everybody for your attention, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Paul and Malachi. We appreciate Mobideo for a great presentation. Please visit them at www.mobideo.com. The on-demand version of this presentation will be available in about 2 hours at bicwebinars.com. Feel free to watch it again and share with your colleagues. On behalf of all of our friends at BIC Magazine, thank you.